There was a big Eurogamer article about why Battlefield 2042 failed. It's actually a really good article. At some point, we kind of hear it from the CSO of the company himself how they view it, and basically they say that they have an acceptable range of bugs that they expect from DICE games.
Acceptable range.
And they say that like DICE has a proven track record of being able to quickly respond to the community and like fix the game up pretty quick, so it doesn't really matter. But they said that for this game, they feel that players' expectations have changed with respect to live service games, and so the previous model of shipping it and patching it later no longer flies.
I hate live service. Shit.
That should have never been that should have never flown in the first place.
No.
But I guess this is heartening in a sense that we see like the people who actually make the decisions like realizing like, oh, we have to actually ship good games.
Wait,
I mean,
what?
it's fucked up that was just their mindset. Like, all right, if that's your mindset, then when it comes out, release it for $40 because you already know it's going to be shit and have bugs. And then once all the bugs are clear, then throw it up to $60. Like, I don't know, you can't have it both ways and not be a piece of shit.
That's one of the curses of early access. Like when it
yeah.
Like when early access first was like from a scene point of view, when early access was first announced, I think like 3 of the games on it were like I want to say like Don't Starve was on it, I think, originally. And it was like, oh, you bought the game, and it was like it had a decent amount of content in it, and it was hey, you are bug test. Basically, you are testing this game for us. This is not like the finished product or whatever.
I mean, on paper, early access is great, and for indie companies who just don't have the money to do a whole game and they just want to show you something if you want in. Yeah, and
exactly. Yes, perfect.
People, and
exactly what I was
Who
trying to
shouldn't
say.
be doing that
But
in the first place.
Like you have, a perfect example is 90% of EA's games, or a lot of really any game recently. The games come out, they're a buggy mess. They're just awful. Like they'll first show the game and it'll look amazing. It'll be like Siege, for example. When they showed Siege, that game looked crazy. And when it came out and me and John were playing it, it was
an hour to get into one match.
Oh yeah, it would take like an hour to get into a match. The match was a buggy
I remember
mess.
that. I got in like a month in, and even like a month in, you had to like do a lot of like games to make sure your NAT wasn't triggering issues.
And if you had certain NATs, you couldn't play.
If you were lucky enough to get into a game, or if you're lucky enough to get into a party, then like over the course of 2 hours, you might play 1 or 2 games just from dealing with all the network issues.
Can we lay this at the excuse me? Can we lay this at the feet of Bethesda for committing the original sin of what Greg is talking about? Or was there someone who was kind of doing that practice before them?
What was Bethesda's thing? I'm sorry.
Well,
just games come out and they're really buggy and.
Oh, okay. Yes. Well, that in itself, I feel like is in a problem with their engine with Bethesda, where they they've basically used the same engine, that creation engine, and they have slapped it together and made it a disgusting amalgamation of what it is.
I don't think that detracts from Flask's point, though, right? Like, the idea that Bethesda knows they're going to ship shitty games in and fix them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I think before they didn't even really fix them, right? Like New Vegas,
they didn't fix them.
It was like they were releasing in a time where consumers were not yet accustomed to asking for the developers to fix their goddamn game, and then it's only after they kept doing it, the gamers were like, "Come on, you can't just leave it."
For sure, yeah.
Dude, like
definitely be seen as like the Godfather.
Fallout 4 is a good example of that, where I've played it a few times on the computer, like to download like mods and stuff. And one of the highest recommended things to get is literally a fan patch that fixes everything that literally Bethesda should have fixed. They're like, nah, we ain't doing that.
I would bet money that one of those exists and is recommended by the community for literally every Bethesda game.
For literally every game. Yeah, dude, 100%. 100%. That's embarrassing, man. And then
affects other
what's funny
titles
is
like,
then they would make mods. People would make mods, basically add content to their game. And then Bethesda had the crazy gall to be like, hey, we're going to take all that content and we're going to put it on our own version of it and we're going to sell that to you.
Yeah.
To make, more.
I mean,
Yep.
I was going to say, I think you have a point there, Flask. I think, I think it's not like they're like the root of all evil. I think that this evil just kind of spawned forth from the incentives and from like the ability that you could do that with the emergence of the fact that you could patch games at all. Like Bethesda's definitely one of like the progenitors of it, Not just that, but like you can also point to like Bethesda with, I think Greg, you were just alluding to it, like Horse Armor and Oblivion,
Yeah. Microtransactions.
Like we talk shit, but like we talking about markets and money, like Bethesda is a king. You know what I mean? Like the stuff that they do, like people copy for reasons because it makes money. Because people like for the most part, people have just accepted that.
Especially nowadays, because. Oh, go ahead, John. You go ahead. You go ahead.
Both of you go now.
You guys are so cute.
We're in the mirror world right now. We're doing the bit where we're like raising our hands. I was just thinking about before games could patch, and I'm sure there's even more examples. Just coming off the top of my head. But even like the Knights of the Old Republic games. I mean, the second one famously has fan patches for making up like lost content and stuff. But even more so, I remember when Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines came out for the computer. I mean, that game has a bunch of, even if you download it on GOG, it comes with a fan patch because it just ran like absolute shit.
Yeah.
But back then, like it ran like shit, and then you bought it, and then that was it. Unless you could like, somehow you were savvy enough to connect to the internet, and maybe some games would release like a patch, or you'd have to find a fan patch. Other than that, you just had to deal with it, and it was like, yeah, game's pretty good, but it's got some bugs.
But I feel like for sure, actually, not even just almost, like, games weren't graded on a curve, like, then in the same way that they are now. You know what I mean? Like reviews and, like, marketing for that game, well, the reviews, I guess, mainly, probably would have been pretty meh, because there wasn't just the expectation that those things would be fixed.
Right.
Bethesda
games are always going to get, like, 9s out of 10s or whatever,
Yeah. Well, even nowadays, games get like re-reviews, when they, after they update so much or whatever. It's like, yeah.
I was gonna say, because I just don't want to lose the example before the topic moves on, but because it's so beloved, we all just kind of casually ignore that this is the case. But Dark Souls, I mean, Dark Souls had DS fix as like a prerequisite.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I knew it was shit the second I played it.
Yeah,
and we're all kind of like, yeah, okay.
It's crazy, mainly because games nowadays are starting to end up like $70 games, like that new Final Fantasy. There's that new.
I think they are on the console, right? Don't they charge $70?
Yeah, but no. Oh, yeah, they are. But I think on the PS5 it's 70. Don't all I saw was on Epic. Yeah. It was like on the Epic Game Store it's $70. So you want me to dish out $70 for a game? But that is, and what's that other game, Flash? The that Isekai game we keep talking about with the girl.
Forsworn.
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 That is also $70.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's like the new standard. If it's on a console, is like $70.
But that's ridiculous. So then I'm gonna buy this $70 game, which is that's pretty crazy. $60 is super crazy. $60 is crazy. $70 is super crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I think that ties.
I'm gonna buy this game for $70, and it's gonna be full of bugs. That ain't gonna fly, man. That's like they need to. If you sell a game and it's like shit, like runs like shit, you need to be held accountable for that. That's like something like you need to be yeah.
You almost want like a separate regulatory industry than the ESRB that like slaps a quality stamp on it. You know what I mean? Like that is at least playable or something like that.
It needs
Like,
the broken
actually,
campfire seal of approval.
Actually, that board does exist, but I think they literally just played to like make sure that it does not crash the system or break the hardware. There's nobody like testing for like quality checking, you know.
And I think, Greg, the point you're making does tie back into the thing we always talk about is the indie game sort of renaissance of sorts, where we're playing more and more indie games now that are cheaper than those AAA titles. And I think that part of that is we've lost faith in those AAA titles to be good
dude,
before a lot of work is put into them. So we're more patient about when we play those.
It's crazy usually. Because like you said, there's indie games that we've played and they're crazy good. And they're like most of the games I have a shitload of content in are indie games. And then the other ones are just buggy mess AAA games that I gotta wait months for them to patch so I can play it.
Their scope might not be at the same level, but they're like complete packages as they are when they're released.
100%, like a Hades. Well, that was an early access game. But
what? God.
My bad. Forgot I said that. Cut it. I feel like it's come up a bunch lately, either on the pod or like off pod, about just like general negativity towards like the state of AAA gaming these days. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what, maybe I'm saying something very obvious, but I was thinking about this the other day, and I feel like gamers are more in charge of the quality of games today than they were 20 years ago by far. And I think
stuff could just come out and be whatever.
Well, I think it's hard. It's hard to see that because game companies have become scummier with their practices in recent years. But I do think that gamers have the power to combat this and use it. Like, you know, gamers could congregate on internet platforms that didn't exist, you know, like Reddit and Facebook or whatever, and Twitch. These didn't exist, you know, whatever, way back, I guess. But and voice their issues in aggregate. And, you know, that's been having real effects on some of these shitty AAA releases. I mean, you look at Halo Infinite, the subreddit fallout, and then subsequent drops in player base. You know, the Cyberpunk fallout when that game came out, and the fucking huge, you know, stock price drop for CD Projekt Red, and, you know, just news stories all about that game in mainstream. Battlefield, fucking, was it 4042 or 2042?
2042.
The most negatively reviewed Steam game of all time.
That was Halo Infinite's fault.
That was my bad.
Because the release around the same time, so it was Halo Infinite's fault, obviously.
So I think we're seeing a lot of like, you know, gamer backlash. I think companies are scared, and I fucking feel like I'm sounding a little naive because I said that when, you know, Cyberpunk came out. Oh, you know, companies are gonna start watching their back and releasing more, you know, complete packages. And then Halo Infinite came out and fucking Battlefield. So maybe we haven't seen those results yet, but I know these companies are scared, and I feel like, you know, things are about to slingshot. Maybe I do think that gamers have a lot more power than we used.
Well, yeah,
to.
That's kind of the point I was
power
trying to open with
player.
the top. Is that, you know, it's nice to see that this is coming from the mouth of the EA CSO,
Right.
and not just like some random dev or like some random person. It's like a moneymaker guy talking to the shareholders.
Yeah, maybe one big fail wasn't enough, you know, but maybe a couple of them all in a row is a good enough example for these AAA studios. You know, I mean, hasn't done shit to Rockstar yet, but maybe GTA 6.
Yeah,
hopefully not. Hopefully GTA 6 is a good game. Ultimately,
I made a joke about it, but I don't think we touched on it when we were talking about the CSO talking about Battlefield 2042 just now. One of the quotes from the article that a lot of journalists are kind of latching onto is how Halo Infinite's multiplayer release, which was like unexpected, was considered one of the causes of Battlefield's failure, because it was just like
how do they tie those together?
Because it was a comparative point to gamers. That's the explanation. That's the CSO's line of thinking, is that Halo Infinite multiplayer released and was largely well received and cohesive as an experience in this person's opinion. Whereas Battlefield was essentially a more buggy mess with a lot of features lacking, and it just basically made it look bad. That's what this person is trying to say.
That's so stupid. It didn't even cross my mind that would.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like that is literally that literally must be true. I mean, again, like just look at this, like money flows. Like it's not the reason, but like if you're trying to like list a number of reasons why this product underperformed, the unexpected release of a major competitive product that is free would certainly be a true thing to mention.
Yeah, I don't think it's like
intentional.
Like,
this game was unplayable at
it's like saying you didn't eat like the piece of shit in the ground because McDonald's was next door. It's like you weren't gonna eat it anyways. Like it was. You don't blame McDonald's.
I agree. It's weak for sure.
But it definitely. I mean, I'm sure it did. I mean, I'm sure there were some people that were like, "Well, I could play Battlefield, but fuck that, I'll play Halo." But also, like, yeah, they didn't do themselves any favors.
No. I should never turn Jurassic Park to buy Battlefield.
I just think of investors as robots, so like this kind of speak just makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're absolutely right, and now you say that in that way, yeah. And Halo was free.
I think it's one of those things that's like true, and everyone kind of knows that is at least partially true. But it's one of those things that you really shouldn't say because it makes you look bad as
like a fucking
person
idiot.
Representing the product.
You made a bad game, a really bad game,
exactly,
and it's your own fault.
Exactly. But of course, all the journalists are latching onto that quote as like the centerpiece of the
right
of the whole thing.
Right.